Did you know that unresolved conflicts at work and in personal life contribute to nearly 60% of stress-related illnesses? Now, take a moment. How many people in your life do you consider to be enemies, or at least sources of constant tension? Imagine if there were a way to eliminate these enemies, not through confrontation, but through wisdom. This is where Stoicism, an ancient philosophy, becomes incredibly valuable in today's chaotic world. Stoicism doesn't just help us survive conflicts, it teaches us how to overcome adversaries and find lasting inner peace by changing how we think and act. Modern life is full of challenges, especially when it comes to dealing with difficult people. Whether it's a co-worker undermining you, a family member causing drama, or a neighbor stirring up trouble, these conflicts create stress, anger, and even a desire for revenge. But chasing revenge only traps us in a cycle of negativity, robbing us of our peace and well-being. Most people struggle with this, feeling that their enemies have too much control over their happiness. The challenge is clear. How do we deal with these adversaries in a way that doesn't consume us? This is where Stoicism shines, offering timeless strategies to not just handle our enemies, but to neutralize their impact on our lives, allowing us to live with greater peace and purpose. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll discover 10 powerful Stoic strategies that can transform how you deal with enemies, helping you to not just survive, but thrive. These tips could change how you handle conflict forever, and you definitely don't want to miss out. Ready to eliminate your enemies? Let's start. Strategy number 1. Empathy. Empathy is the ability to step into someone else's shoes and understand their feelings, thoughts, and motivations. It's one of the most powerful tools for dissolving enmity because it shifts the focus from seeing someone as an enemy to seeing them as a complex human being, just like yourself. Let's say you have a colleague who always seems to be undermining you in meetings. Your initial reaction might be to feel threatened, angry, or defensive. It's natural to see them as an adversary who's out to get you. But what if you paused for a moment and tried to see things from their perspective? Maybe they're insecure about their position at work, or perhaps they feel overlooked and think that criticizing others is the only way to get noticed. They might even have personal struggles that are affecting their behavior at work. By trying to understand their situation, you can begin to see that their actions aren't necessarily about you, they're about them. This doesn't excuse bad behavior, but it helps you respond with compassion rather than anger. When you approach someone with empathy, you're more likely to de-escalate the conflict. You might even start a conversation that leads to mutual understanding, where both of you can address the issues at hand in a more constructive way. Empathy also reminds us that we all have our own battles and insecurities. Recognizing this shared humanity can turn an enemy into someone you understand and can even cooperate with. It's a powerful way to transform conflict into a more positive interaction. Strategy number 2. Self-reflection. Self-reflection is a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy. It involves taking a step back and looking at your own thoughts, actions, and behaviors to understand how they contribute to the situations you face. In the context of dealing with enemies, self-reflection can help you identify whether you've played a role in creating or escalating the conflict. For example, if you find yourself constantly clashing with a family member, it might be easy to assume that the problem lies entirely with them. However, self-reflection encourages you to ask, is there something I'm doing that's making this situation worse? Maybe you're being overly critical, or perhaps you're not listening to their concerns. Sometimes, our own biases, insecurities, or miscommunications can cause friction without us even realizing it. By examining your own behavior, you can identify areas where you might need to change. This doesn't mean blaming yourself for everything. Self-reflection is about being honest with yourself, not beating yourself up. It's about recognizing that relationships and conflicts are rarely one-sided, and that by improving your own actions, you can often improve the situation as a whole. Moreover, self-reflection can lead to personal growth. When you understand your triggers, biases, and patterns of behavior, you become better equipped to handle conflicts in the future. You learn to respond rather than react, to communicate more effectively, and to maintain your inner peace even in challenging situations. This not only helps to resolve existing conflicts, but also makes you less likely to find yourself in similar situations again. Strategy number 3, forgiveness. Forgiveness is a central theme in many philosophies and religions, and in Stoicism, it's seen as a way to free yourself from the burden of negative emotions. When someone wrongs you, it's natural to feel hurt, angry, or betrayed. These feelings are valid, but holding on to them can be damaging in the long run. They can consume your thoughts, drain your energy, and keep you trapped in a cycle of negativity. Forgiveness, in the Stoic sense, doesn't mean excusing bad behavior or pretending that everything is okay. It means choosing to let go of the anger and resentment that can weigh you down. This process often begins with understanding that everyone, including your enemies, is flawed. People make mistakes, sometimes out of ignorance, fear, or their own unresolved issues. Imagine a situation where a close friend has betrayed your trust. You feel deeply hurt and find it hard to move past the incident. Forgiveness in this context involves acknowledging your pain, but then deciding not to let that pain control your life. By forgiving, you release the emotional grip that the betrayal has on you. You're no longer consumed by thoughts of revenge or bitterness, which allows you to move forward with your life. Forgiving someone doesn't necessarily mean reconciling with them or forgetting what they did. It's about finding peace within yourself, regardless of whether the relationship is restored. It's about taking back control of your emotions and choosing not to let someone else's actions dictate your state of mind. This act of forgiveness can be incredibly empowering, as it allows you to reclaim your inner peace and focus on what truly matters in your life. Strategy number 4. Focus on what you can control. The Stoic idea of focusing on what you can control is perhaps one of the most practical pieces of advice for dealing with conflicts and enemies. In life, there are countless things that we simply cannot control: other people's actions, the outcome of events, the past, and even certain aspects of the future. Trying to control these things leads to frustration, anxiety, and a sense of helplessness. Instead, Stoicism teaches us to focus on what is within our control, our own thoughts, actions, and reactions. This shift in focus can be incredibly liberating. When you stop worrying about things you can't change, you free up mental and emotional energy to deal with what you can influence. Consider a scenario where a colleague at work is spreading rumors about you. Naturally, this could make you feel angry or stressed. You can't control what they say or do, but you can control how you respond. Then calmly report the issue to a superior, or simply focus on continuing to do your job well, knowing that the truth will eventually come out. By focusing on your actions, you maintain your dignity and integrity regardless of what others do. This approach also helps you stay grounded in your values. If your goal is to live a virtuous life, focusing on what you can control allows you to align your actions with that goal, even in the face of adversity. It's about maintaining your own standards of behavior rather than letting someone else's actions drag you down to their level. Focusing on what you can control doesn't just protect your peace of mind, it also makes you more resilient. When you're not constantly trying to change things beyond your control, you become more adaptable and better able to navigate life's challenges. This resilience can turn potential enemies into minor obstacles, as you realize that their power over you is limited to what you allow. Strategy number 5. Non-attachment to outcomes. Non-attachment to outcomes is a core Stoic principle that encourages you to focus on the process rather than the results. In conflicts, it's natural to want a specific outcome. Maybe you want someone to apologize, to change their behavior, or to acknowledge that you were right. However, Becoming too attached to these outcomes can set you up for disappointment and frustration, especially if things don't go the way you hoped. Stoicism teaches that while it's important to act according to your values and do your best, the outcome is often beyond your control. By focusing on your actions rather than the results, you maintain your peace of mind regardless of what happens. This doesn't mean you shouldn't care about the outcome, but rather that you shouldn't let it dictate your happiness or sense of self-worth. For example, if you have a disagreement with a friend, you might hope that after talking things through, they'll see your point of view and the relationship will return to normal. However, if they don't respond as you expected, you could feel hurt or disappointed. Non-attachment to the outcome means that you've done your part by communicating honestly and respectfully, but you're not dependent on their response for your peace of mind. This approach allows you to stay calm and centered, even in difficult situations. It also helps you accept the reality that not everything is within your control. By focusing on what you can control, your own actions, you can navigate conflicts with integrity and avoid the emotional roller coaster that often comes with unmet expectations. Non-attachment to outcomes also makes you more resilient to setbacks. If things don't go your way, you're less likely to dwell on the disappointment and more likely to move forward with a clear mind. This resilience is key to overcoming conflicts and challenges without being weighed down by them. In summary, non-attachment to outcomes is about doing your best and letting go of the need for a specific result. It's about finding peace in the process, knowing that you've acted in accordance with your values, regardless of how things turn out. This mindset helps you stay grounded and prevents external events from disrupting your inner peace. Strategy number 6. Virtuous example. Living virtuously and with integrity means consistently aligning your actions with your core principles and values, no matter the circumstances. When you face conflict or opposition, it can be tempting to respond with anger, resentment, or to mirror the negative behavior of others. However, by choosing to stick to your virtues such as honesty, kindness, and fairness, you set a powerful example for others, including those who might consider themselves your enemies. Imagine a situation where a colleague is spreading rumors about you at work. Instead of retaliating with gossip or anger, you continue to conduct yourself with professionalism and integrity. You maintain your commitment to your work, treat others with respect, and refuse to engage in the same harmful behavior. Over time, others will likely notice this contrast. Your colleagues' actions may start to seem petty or unjustified when compared to your consistent virtue. Living virtuously can have a few outcomes when it comes to enemies. First, your example might inspire them to change their behavior. When they see that their negativity isn't affecting you and that you're not responding in kind, they might begin to question their own actions. Second, your consistent integrity might lead them to lose interest in opposing you. If they see that their efforts to bring you down aren't working, they might simply give up. Finally, even if your enemy doesn't change, living virtuously ensures that you remain true to yourself. You maintain your dignity and peace of mind, knowing that you've acted in accordance with your values. This strategy isn't about seeking approval from others. It's about maintaining your own sense of self-respect and inner peace. When you live by your principles, you create a life that's resilient to external negativity, and you may even transform your relationships in the process. Strategy number 7. Indifference. In Stoicism, indifference or apatheia refers to the idea that we should remain unaffected by external events that are beyond our control, especially the actions and words of others. When dealing with enemies, this concept can be incredibly liberating. It's about recognizing that what others say or do cannot harm your inner self, your true character, unless you let it. For example, if someone insults you or tries to provoke you, your initial reaction might be to feel hurt, angry, or defensive. However, Stoicism teaches that you have the power to choose your response. You can decide not to let their words affect your peace of mind. By practicing indifference, you remind yourself that their actions are a reflection of their character, not yours. You are in control of your own thoughts and emotions, and you don't have to give others the power to disturb your inner tranquility. Indifference doesn't mean you ignore the situation or allow people to walk all over you. It means that you approach the situation with a sense of calm detachment. You might address the issue if necessary, but you do so without letting it disturb your inner peace. For example, if a co-worker is trying to undermine you, you can calmly address the issue with your boss or HR without letting the stress of the situation overwhelm you. By treating your enemies with indifference, you take away their power over you. They may continue their negative behavior, but it no longer affects you in the same way. This approach often leads to a reduction in conflict, because when your enemy sees that their efforts to upset you aren't working, they may lose interest. Ultimately, indifference protects your well-being and helps you navigate conflicts with a clear and calm mind. Strategy number 8. Patience. Patience is a powerful strategy in dealing with enemies because it acknowledges that time often has a way of resolving conflicts naturally. In the heat of the moment, conflicts can feel overwhelming and all-consuming. However, many situations that seem significant at the time often lose their intensity as time passes. Practicing patience allows you to take a step back and give the situation space to unfold without reacting impulsively. Imagine you're in a heated argument with a friend or family member. Emotions are running high, and it feels like the relationship might be permanently damaged. In such moments, it's easy to say or do things you might later regret. But if you practice patience, you can avoid making hasty decisions. Instead of immediately trying to resolve the conflict or retaliate, you give it time. You might find that after a few days, both you and the other person have had time to cool down and reflect, making it easier to have a constructive conversation. Patience also involves trusting that not everything needs to be solved immediately. Some conflicts will naturally diminish as circumstances change or as people grow and gain new perspectives. By exercising patience, you allow time to work its magic, which can lead to a more peaceful resolution than if you had tried to force a solution in the heat of the moment. Furthermore, patience helps you maintain your composure during conflicts. It prevents you from being swept up in the urgency of the situation and gives you the clarity to make more thoughtful decisions. Over time, you'll find that many conflicts resolve themselves without the need for drastic actions, simply because you allowed time to pass. This approach also helps you build resilience and emotional maturity, as you learn to navigate challenges without rushing to conclusions or actions. Strategy number 9. Acceptance. Acceptance is a fundamental Stoic principle that involves recognizing and embracing the realities of life, including the fact that enmity and conflict are natural parts of human experience. In every aspect of life, whether it's work, family, or social circles, there will be people who disagree with you, misunderstand you, or even actively oppose you. Rather than resisting this reality or wishing it were different, Stoicism teaches that you should accept it as part of the human condition. For example, if you're dealing with a difficult co-worker who seems intent on making your job harder, it's easy to feel frustrated and wonder why you have to deal with such a person. However, by accepting that conflict is a natural part of life, you can approach the situation with a calmer mindset. Acceptance doesn't mean you condone their behavior or that you give up on addressing the issue. It means you acknowledge that this is a challenge you must navigate rather than wishing it didn't exist. Acceptance also helps you manage your expectations. When you accept that not everyone will like you or agree with you, you're less likely to be disappointed or hurt by conflicts. You understand that having enemies or facing opposition is not a personal failure, but rather a normal part of interacting with others in a diverse and complex world. By embracing acceptance, you reduce the power that conflicts have over you. Instead of being consumed by anger, frustration, or a desire to change others, you focus on what you can control, your own actions and responses. This mindset allows you to remain centered and composed, even in the face of adversity. It also frees you from the burden of constantly trying to change others or wishing for a conflict-free life, which is an unrealistic expectation. Ultimately, acceptance empowers you to handle conflicts with grace and resilience. You learn to navigate challenges without being overwhelmed by them, and you recognize that enmity, like all things, is temporary and can be managed with wisdom and patience. Strategy number 10. Transform enemies into friends. One of the most powerful strategies in Stoic philosophy is the idea of transforming enemies into friends. This approach is about taking a proactive, positive stance in conflicts, where instead of simply trying to win or defeat your enemies, you seek to turn them into allies through kindness, understanding, and cooperation. Consider a situation where you have a neighbor who constantly complains about noise, leading to tension and arguments. Rather than continuing to see them as a problem or an opponent, you could try to understand their concerns and find a way to address them. Perhaps they have a child who needs to sleep early, or they work night shifts and need quiet during the day. By acknowledging their needs and making small adjustments, you might turn a source of conflict into a source of cooperation. Transforming enemies into friends doesn't mean you have to be overly accommodating or sacrifice your own needs. It's about finding common ground and building bridges where there once were walls. Sometimes, a simple gesture of goodwill, like inviting your neighbor over for coffee or having a calm conversation to understand each other's perspectives, can completely change the dynamics of a relationship. This strategy also reflects the Stoic belief in the interconnectedness of humanity. We are all part of the same community, and by fostering positive relationships, we contribute to the well-being of the whole. When you turn an enemy into a friend, you not only improve your own life, but also create a more harmonious environment for everyone around you. Moreover, by choosing to transform enemies into friends, you demonstrate strength and wisdom. It takes courage to reach out to someone who opposes you and to seek understanding rather than confrontation. This approach often disarms your enemies, as they may not expect kindness or cooperation from you. In many cases, they may respond in kind, leading to a resolution that benefits both parties. Ultimately, turning enemies into friends is the highest form of victory in Stoic philosophy. It's not about defeating others, but about rising above conflict to create harmony and understanding. This approach not only resolves conflicts, but also enriches your life with stronger, more positive relationships. Out of all the Stoic strategies, perhaps the most transformative is the idea of turning enemies into friends. This approach shifts the entire narrative of conflict. Instead of viewing your enemies as obstacles or threats, Stoicism encourages you to see them as opportunities for growth and understanding. By reaching out with kindness, seeking common ground, and fostering cooperation, you can dissolve hostility and replace it with mutual respect, even friendship. This strategy not only neutralizes the negative impact that enemies have on your life, but also enhances your ability to connect with others, making your world a more harmonious place. Imagine the power of converting someone who once opposed you into a trusted ally. This is the ultimate Stoic victory, and it's within your reach. We've covered some powerful Stoic principles today, from practicing patience and indifference to living virtuously and transforming enemies into friends. By embracing these methods, you can achieve personal growth, protect your inner peace, and even improve your relationships, turning conflicts into opportunities for connection. Now, I want to hear from you. Share your own experiences with conflict in the comments below. How have you dealt with your enemies? And if you're looking for more Stoic wisdom, don't forget to check out my other videos. There's so much more to learn about how Stoicism can transform your life.